The information in this webinar is not intended to treat or cure any disease and is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Hello, my friend. Today we're going to talk about nutrient density a little bit more. Every time I teach a class, I always have a few people ask me if it's okay to eat a particular food. Can I eat pizza? Can I drink milk? What about honey and agave nectar? What about meat? Well, unfortunately, there isn't an easy one-word answer to many of these questions. It's not as simple as eat this, don't eat that on a list. So to help you gain a greater awareness of the food you eat every day and to help you develop a healthier relationship with your food, let's take a deeper look into the concept of nutrient density. Now, remember, nutrient density is looking at the ratio comparing how many micronutrients are in a food compared to the macronutrients. So we want to be feeding our bodies lots and lots of these high-quality, nutrient-dense foods. Instead of thinking of foods as black or white, I like to think of foods as being on a spectrum of healthy choices. This thought process will help you customize your nutrition plan to your individual needs. On the green end of the spectrum, we have foods that are very high in nutrient density. The foods on this end of the spectrum taste amazing and can be used as powerful medicine to help you look better, feel better, and perform better. Let's talk about why. Nutrient-rich foods are anti-inflammatory, which will reduce your risk of chronic illnesses. They are low antigen, meaning they are less likely to trigger your immune system and cause food allergies or sensitivities. These foods are also low glycemic, meaning they have a low sugar content and won't spike your blood sugar and insulin and won't create hormonal imbalances in your body. Foods on the green end of the spectrum are clean and high quality and don't contribute to toxic overload. They provide the proper energy, information, and building blocks so your cells can repair and replace themselves and function optimally. These foods help you to decrease gut permeability and help you heal any type of leaky gut problems that you might have. And just as importantly, these foods promote intuitive eating and help you heal your relationship with your food and your body. Eating these foods will help you achieve your ideal weight and will help you look great, feel great, and have optimum performance. Sounds pretty amazing, right? If you want to do a simple check to see if something belongs on the green end of the spectrum, you can ask yourself, is this a whole food? For our purposes today, a whole food looks like it came from a plant or an animal. Second, ask, how far removed is this food from its natural state? Third, ask, how fresh is it? Usually organic, locally grown, and in-season foods are the most nutrient-dense. Let's walk through a couple of examples. Let's say I wanted to determine if the all-natural, organic cheesy crackers at the health food store belong on the green or the red end of the spectrum. Well, we'll apply these three questions to find out. Are cheesy crackers a whole food? Well, they don't grow on a plant and they're not part of an animal, so no. Next question, how far are the cheesy crackers from the original state of the plant or animal they came from? Well, even though the package says they are organic and all natural, if you look at the ingredient list, the cheesy crackers are made from isolated parts of highly processed hybrid grain, highly processed isolated parts of milk, lots of salt, highly processed vegetable oils, and some questionable flavorings, colorings, and preservatives. These are all items that are not even close to their natural state. Third question, how fresh is it? Well, it's probably been on the shelf for a while, and the shelf life is several years, so probably not very fresh, right? So the conclusion is that even though the package implies it's a healthy treat, it doesn't come close to living on the green end of the spectrum. Let's look at another example. You're at the farmer's market and see some fresh eggs and peaches. Let's find out if these foods belong on the green end of the spectrum. Are they a whole food? Yes. The peaches were just picked off the organic tree yesterday, and the egg was just laid last night by a happy chicken that roams grass fields eating bugs and greens all day. These foods are in their natural state and they couldn't be fresher. These are perfect whole foods and belong on the greenest part of the green end of the spectrum. Now, let's take a look at the red end of the spectrum. Here we have the foods that are pretty much the opposite of the green end. These foods are basically empty calories and have little to no nutrition in them. These foods cause more harm than good and should be avoided whenever possible. You can identify these foods because they usually come in colorful, highly advertised boxes, packages, cans, bags, and cartons. You'll find these foods at restaurants, drive-thrus, in the middle aisle of the grocery store, and in vending machines and at convenience stores. These foods are highly processed and often aren't even made of real food at all. They contain mostly chemicals and food isolates concocted in some laboratory or factory somewhere. Some people like to call these frankenfoods. If the ingredients on the label are long and contain lots of words you don't understand, you're probably at the far end of the red spectrum for sure. These foods, or more accurately, food products, at the red end of the spectrum are highly inflammatory. They cause pain, cellular degeneration, food sensitivities, gut permeability, and general cellular malfunction. They often have a high sugar content which spikes your blood sugar and insulin levels and causes more inflammation and hormonal imbalance. These foods contribute to toxic overload, which then leads to chronic illness, pain, low energy, poor performance, and an unhealthy relationship with food, characterized by food cravings, addictive eating, extra weight, low energy, and overall crappy health. Now that we've talked about the extreme ends of the spectrum, what's in the middle? Well, the nutrient density of a food is influenced by hundreds of factors taking place throughout its lifespan, processing, and consumption. If we're talking about plants, the nutrient density is determined by what kind of seeds were planted, the quality of the soil, how the plants were nourished, the weather conditions, when and how the plant was harvested, how the plants were stored during transport, how many steps of processing they went through, how long they sat on the shelf before you bought them, how you prepared them, and how much of the available nutrition you actually absorbed after you ate the food. The nutrient density of animals is determined by the health of the animal's parents, what the animal was fed, the environment it was raised in, the animal's health, if the animal was exposed to toxins, drugs, or chemicals, when and how the animal product was harvested, and how the animal product was processed, stored, and prepared. Whew, that's a lot of things to consider. To help you simplify this thought process, let's look back at the peaches and eggs from the farmer's market that we discussed earlier and see how they could end up on various places of our spectrum. Are peaches and eggs nutrient-dense whole foods? The simple one-word answer is yes, but let's consider the factors that influence the nutrient density of a peach or an egg before you eat it. Let's say you pick a peach on a hot August day at its peak of ripeness from an organic tree growing in nutrient-rich soil in ideal weather conditions, and you eat it immediately after you pick it. As the juice drips down your chin, you are getting the most nutrient density a peach can offer you. If you consider the same scenario, but the peach was picked from a conventional tree sprayed with pesticides and nourished with synthetic fertilizer, the nutrient density will be less than the first peach. If the peach was grown in South America, was picked before it was ripe, spent a couple weeks in transport, and was irradiated at the border before it spent another week or two on the grocery store shelf, it will have further reduced nutrient profile. If the peach was frozen or canned or cooked, or if it was combined with lots of sugar and preservatives, the nutrient density continues to decrease with all this processing. So you see, we can't just put peaches somewhere on the spectrum. We need to consider the quality of the peach in question. The eggs from the farmer's market that we talked about earlier are probably the best eggs you can get. But these eggs are different than the eggs that you buy at the grocery store that come from factory-farmed, questionably healthy chickens that were locked in filthy cages in a dark barn and fed GMO corn, soy, antibiotics, hormones, and chemicals. These eggs are certainly more nutrient-dense than a powdered egg that has been reconstituted and scrambled in high heat. As you can see, each food needs to be evaluated depending on its quality source and preparation. You'll need to develop food awareness, which means you need to become familiar with where your food is coming from, how it was raised, how it was processed, and how to best prepare it to maximize its nutrient density. This will ensure that you are giving your body the best energy, information, and building blocks possible. Now, I understand that everyone's circumstances are different. There are times when you won't have access to the very best foods, or maybe you can't afford them, or maybe you have specific health concerns that need to be considered. The most empowering question you can ask yourself every time you choose a food is, how can I choose the highest quality food possible considering my current circumstances? Then, make the very best choice you can by choosing from the most nutrient-dense end of the spectrum available to you. This is part of developing a healthy relationship with your food and your body, and a big step towards looking better, feeling better, and performing better.